Have you ever noticed something strange? We spend years inside classrooms, thousands of hours, hundreds of tests, endless homework. Yet somehow, most people leave school without knowing how money works, how their own brain works, how to communicate properly, or even how to learn efficiently. Think about that. You can graduate after 15 years of education and still feel completely lost when real life begins. So here's the uncomfortable question. What if the learning system isn't failing accidentally? What if it's doing exactly what it was designed to do? Because right now, millions of people wake up every morning, go to work, come home exhausted, scroll for hours, repeat the cycle, and somehow never question why learning itself feels painful. But children aren't born hating learning. Nobody has to force a 5-year-old to ask questions. Nobody has to convince toddlers to explore. Curiosity comes naturally. So what happened? At some point, something changed, and that change may be affecting your entire life right now. Let's start with something simple. Imagine asking someone to train for a marathon, but instead of teaching them how running works, how breathing works, how recovery works, you simply hand them hundreds of random exercises and say, memorize these. Sounds ridiculous, yet that's exactly how education often works. Most systems don't teach learning, they teach information storage. And information storage is not intelligence. You probably experienced this yourself. Remember studying for an exam? You spend days memorizing facts, you take the test, you pass. 2 weeks later, gone. Almost everything disappeared. Why? Because human brains were never designed to store meaningless information forever. Your brain is a survival machine. It keeps what matters. It removes what doesn't. Which means the problem isn't your memory. The problem is the system asking your memory to do unnatural things. Now here's where things become interesting. Around you, technology changes every year. Entire industries disappear. New careers appear overnight. Artificial intelligence transforms jobs. Information doubles constantly. Yet many educational models still operate almost exactly like they did decades ago. Rows, schedules, standardized testing, uniform pacing, one instructor, 30 students, same content, same speed, same expectations. But humans don't learn identically. Some people learn visually, others through repetition, others through experimentation, others through discussion. Imagine forcing every athlete to wear identical shoes, regardless of foot size. Sounds stupid, right? Yet we often expect identical educational methods to work for everyone. And when they don't, who gets blamed? The student. You hear things like, you're lazy, you're not disciplined, you're not smart enough. But maybe the system is simply terrible at adapting. Here's another strange thing. Most schools reward correct answers more than good questions. Think about that. As children, we're naturally curious. We constantly ask why. Why is the sky blue? Why do people die? Why does fire burn? But gradually something happens. Wrong answers become embarrassing, mistakes become punishable, curiosity becomes risky, and eventually many people stop asking questions entirely, which creates a dangerous outcome. Adults who know how to follow instructions, but struggle to think independently. Now before someone says, well, school gave us civilization. Of course, education matters, learning matters, teachers matter. This isn't about attacking education. It's about asking whether current systems match modern reality, because reality changed fast. Let's talk about something even more important. Attention. Your attention may be the most valuable resource you possess. Yet traditional learning environments often ignore how attention actually works. Humans are not designed for endless passive absorption. Your brain constantly asks, why does this matter? Why should I care? How is this useful? Without emotional connection, retention collapses. This explains something many people misunderstand. When someone says, I'm bad at math, often what they actually mean is, I never learned math in a way my brain connected with. When someone says I'm not smart, often they mean, I spent years inside systems where my learning style failed. Huge difference. Here's a story. Imagine two people. One spends 10 years learning how to memorize answers. The other spends 2 years learning how to learn. Who wins long term? The answer becomes obvious. Because information changes, learning skills remain. This is why some people seem unstoppable. They read faster, adapt faster, acquire skills faster, change careers faster. They aren't necessarily smarter. They simply understand the mechanics of learning. And this creates a hidden gap. A gap bigger than money, bigger than status. The gap between people who can rapidly acquire knowledge and people waiting for instructions. Now let's discuss something uncomfortable. Many educational systems were originally designed during industrial periods. Large populations, standardized labor, predictable jobs, efficiency, uniformity, obedience. Does that sound like the modern world? Because today's economy rewards creativity, adaptability, communication, problem solving, independent thinking. The exact skills often pushed into secondary importance. This creates a strange paradox. Students spend years optimizing for exams, then enter environments rewarding entirely different behaviors. No wonder so many people feel unprepared. And here's perhaps the most dangerous consequence. People begin associating learning with suffering. This is tragic, because learning itself is incredible. Learning allows humans to transform their reality. Every skill, every business, every relationship improvement, every personal breakthrough starts with learning. But when years of frustration accumulate, people stop trying. They say, "I'm too old, I'm not talented, it's too late." None of these are usually true. The real issue is something else. Many people never learned how learning actually works. So what does effective learning look like? First, active participation, not passive consumption. Second, immediate application, use information quickly. Third, repetition over time, not cramming. Fourth, curiosity, your brain remembers what feels meaningful. Fifth, feedback, fast correction accelerates growth. Sounds obvious, yet many people spend years doing the opposite. Now here's something powerful. You don't need permission to rebuild your education. You already possess access to more information than entire civilizations had. Books, courses, communities, videos, tools, experts. NEC is no longer information. It's filtering, focus, execution, and learning efficiency. Think about this carefully. If you spent 1 year mastering how your brain learns, how different would your next decade look? Different career? Different income? Different confidence? Different opportunities? Probably. Because the ability to learn may be the ultimate leverage. Not because knowledge matters, but because adaptability matters. The world doesn't care how much information you memorized 10 years ago. It cares whether you can solve problems today, and tomorrow, and next year. So maybe the real problem isn't that education exists. Maybe the problem is that many people mistake schooling for learning. Those are not always the same thing. School can end, learning cannot. And the people who understand this early gain enormous advantages. So here's the challenge. Stop asking, how can I study more? Start asking, how can I learn better? Because that single question may change everything. If this video made you question something you've believed your entire life, good. Because sometimes the first step toward learning is realizing what you've been taught about learning might be wrong.